DEPHEMEREMBER day 17, and I am so excited for today's prompts, for today's snack, and for today's animal. In case you're new here, this is a collaboration with my friend Louisa Heinzel, and we are making junk journal ephemera in December, hence DEPHEMEREMBER. Let's get right to it. This is our paper bag. That's the back side. I haven't shown you those for a while. Our animal for today is this gorgeous moth. And our snack is an American one. It's Hershey's Cookies and Cream. Having lived in the US, I of course know Hershey's chocolate, but I've never tried cookies and cream. I don't think they had it at the time that I was there. So I'm super excited to try this. So this is what it looks like. Lots of cookies. I like the crunch. But being used to usually eating 70% chocolate, this is super sweet for me. So thankfully, I can only eat one piece at a time. That's a good thing. I have to say, it's very hard to compete with European chocolate. Not all European countries make good chocolate, but there's quite a few that have very good chocolate. So Hershey's, I'm afraid you're not on top of the list for chocolate. I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. So let's check today's prompt. I am so excited. So first of all, I love this moth. I love the colors. Obviously, yellow and blue are my colors. This vintage moth is just absolutely stunning. And our prompts for today are rust and a bookmark. I love doing faux rust, and I will show you that it's really simple to do. You don't need any fancy pastes or colors or anything. And I realized today how much fun it is to look at your prompt and then have it marinate in your mind, maybe a few hours, maybe even a few days. Because I looked at this prompt this morning and I had some ideas, but then I had some errands to run. I was outside and doing stuff. And while I was doing stuff, of course, I had this prompt in my mind and I kept coming up with new ideas, different ideas. I was inspired by things I was seeing around me, and it's just so much fun. Maybe that's something you want to try in case that's not already how you're doing it, because you will see that your ideas might change, and that's so much fun. Anyway, enough rambling. Let's get to it. I'm going to start by creating a background for my bookmark. I'm going to do that by using a regular copy paper. This is 80 gram. This is our regular copy paper. And I want to, of course, make this look a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to start off with a tea bag. I have this in warm water. Well, actually it's cold now, but it was warm at one point. And I'm just going to, oh, it has torn. That's not good. I mean, it's no big deal. And I'm just going to dab this on my paper. That will not only give it some interesting coloring. This is just the first step. But by making it wet, the paper will later, when it's dry, turn crunchy, which is super fun. And of course, always save these. These are perfect for collages. This is black tea. I think I haven't mentioned that. Maybe I should say that. So that's step number 1, and I'm going to dry this. My paper is dry, so now I have this. It's just a very light coat. And I'm going to keep going to make it darker. Now I could continue with the tea bag, but given that it has torn, I'm not going to do that. I would rather start now with something darker, which would be coffee. You can make this obviously as dark as you want. I have no idea how much coffee I put in here. If you'd force me to answer, I would say maybe 2 heaped tablespoons of instant coffee for this small container, which is maybe 2.5 cups. But It doesn't matter. You do yours how you like yours. And I think the darker, the faster you're going to see results. And the cool thing with this method is you can stop at any time. When you think that you like the way it looks, then you just stop. If not, you just keep going. So now I'm going to take a kitchen towel and I will just dip that into my coffee. And then I'll just dab that onto my sheet. And then I'll dry it again. So this is what it looks like when it's dry. Look at this great surface structure. And of course, we have this lovely crinkly sound. And of course, if you don't have coffee at home, you can just use tea. If you don't have tea at home, you can just do this with coffee. Do it with what you have and do it as often as you want. Even though this looks quite cool already, and it might be perfect for some projects, I want this to be darker. So I'm going to keep going. So I'll add more coffee. And this will give you a very different result than if you're just dipping it into coffee, like you usually might do for coffee dyeing your papers. More drying. So now I have this. It's getting darker with each layer, of course, that I add. And I'm going to do at least one more, maybe two more. So I'll keep doing the same thing and then I'll show you what it looks like at the end. It's quite dark now. I've just added two more coats and it looks super interesting. And I just love the sound. Next, I want to choose the substrate. And I just found this. This was packaging from a table runner that I just bought a few days ago. It's fairly thick, but that's okay for a bookmark. For me, I don't mind. So let's think about the dimensions. The height is perfect because this is the height of the pages of my journal. So I just need to figure out the width. So I will cut it here. And then for the width, I need to take my moth because I will be using this one. And it obviously needs to fit on the bookmark and maybe have a little extra space. So I'll make it this wide. I'm going to use my craft knife to cut the size. I'll give you the measurements of this bookmark just in case you need to know, because I always get asked about measurements of the things I make. So this is a little over 4¼ inches or 11 centimeters by 8 inches or 20½ centimeters. Actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't need this yet, but obviously we're going to need this. I want to add some more darker accents on this because I think with the rust, it's nicer to have a darker background. And I'm going to choose this beautiful petrol acrylic paint. And I'm going to add it with my brayer. So I'll first add some to this baking paper. And then I'll roll my brayer over it. And then I'll run it over this. And because we have such an uneven surface, I'm hoping that it will give us an interesting pattern. That is actually quite cool. I'm going to press a little harder. That's actually better than I was hoping. Very different to what I expected. This is too unsettling for me. It's too busy. So I'm not going to use this. I'll keep this as a background for another project. So I have another one of these, thankfully. This is a bit lighter than the other one, but it's fine. Otherwise, it's done exactly the same. So this time I want to try something else. So I have the paint here from the brayer. And I have this stippling brush. And I just want a very little paint on it. And I'm going to go over it in circular motions, dry brushing it. Let's see what effect that will give us. Nope, I think I need a lighter touch. Nope, not working. Okay, never mind any of that. I'm going to stick to something I know a little better, which is to use Distress Oxide by dripping it onto the paper. So this is walnut stain, and I'll just add some here to my acrylic block. Mist that, and then let it drip on my paper. That's not going to be enough. Let me smoosh this around. Oops. I'm going to dry this. Then I'll repeat the process. Try it again. So I'm okay with this. We'll see what it looks like once it's in the rectangle format and we've added a few more things. In the meantime, I've cut out this beautiful moth. For anyone that's new here, you can find the freebie with all the animals that we're using, as well as the prompt list linked below. And also both Louisa Heinzel's and my own playlist for DEPHEMEREMBER are linked below as well. Because we have the moth as a prompt today, I wanted to add a little goodie for you. So this one I've had in my shop for a while. They're large butterfly tags. And brand new are these moth tags. They're the same size as the butterfly tags. As you can see, they are darker. By the way, this is printed on regular copy paper. This is printed on matte photo paper. That's why this one is a lot more gray than this one. This has warmer tones. So both of these you can get at minus 50%. And the code you need to enter at the checkout is DEF2022 moth for both the same code. And you can find links to these two products down below. This promo code is good from today until December 31st. So the first thing that comes to mind when I think of moths is the moths that make holes in your clothes, because those are really annoying, right? So I want to make a bookmark representing the holes. I'm assuming this one isn't the kind that eat your clothes, but it doesn't matter. It's going to represent moths in general, of which there are, by the way, approximately 160,000 different species. Can you imagine? 160,000 different moths. So I want to make holes in this. So I think it makes sense to first cut out the rectangle to go on our cardboard. By the way, another fun fact, what moths have different than butterflies is the antennae. So the moths have usually thicker antennae, and also a lot of times they have hair. And the butterfly antennae are usually thinner and they have like this little ball on the top. So far it doesn't look very spectacular. So let's make some holes. In order to place the holes, I also need to think about where I want to place my moth. How about right there? So that means I could make maybe 3 holes. One larger one, maybe a smaller one, and another large one. Something like that. And I was also thinking, what can I put underneath the holes? So I had the idea under one of the holes, I could have a dictionary page with the word moth. The only dictionary I found was this Arabic German one. And so I looked up the word moth in German, which is, by the way, Motte. But I didn't want to tear out this page. So I made a photo and I printed it out. So here I have the German word Motte. The problem is that I have no idea what this is supposed to be in Arabic. Like, what is this? Eman, my friend in Cairo, if you are watching this, can you please tell me what is the name for moth in Arabic? Because, for example, when I look here, Mücke, that's like a mosquito, and the translation is namusa. I know this word. My hubby and I use it a lot. But these are not letters. I am so confused. But of course, Eman can read this, and obviously she will know the word for moth in Arabic since she is Egyptian. So, hi, sweetie. I hope you're watching this. So, given that I want to use this kind of useless translation nonetheless, I want to have this under my hole. So that means I need to think about the shape of my hole to work. So let's start by punching a hole. So this hole is going to be down here somewhere. So I'm going to punch from the bottom up. And then I'm going to do my best to make a long hole. Okay, that's great. So I can cut this out. Just want to make sure that what I'm cutting out is bigger than the hole, obviously. So we said she's going here. So we said we want to make one more down here and one up here. I don't know yet what I want to put under those. Are there any other words we can use? There's mord, which is murder. Maybe not so good. Oh, there's mosquito. Motive. Motor. I can definitely use the mosquito. Oh, that's a good one. Morgendämmerung, which is dawn. That's actually nice. Okay, so I'll use that one and I'll use the mosquito. Trying to make sure I have enough space around the word. For these, I don't necessarily need to see the whole definition. I just wanted that for the moth. I just want to see the word mosquito. So that one will go here underneath. So let's make that hole. Whoops. So that's big enough for the mosquito. And then we need a longer one again for the dawn, which is quite a long word in German. Morgendämmerung. And that will go up here. That's big enough. So this is what we have so far. Looking at this now, I'm thinking I don't want these straight edges. So I want to tear into those a little bit as well. So maybe once here. Like that. And then maybe once here. That, and maybe one more down here. We can like tear a whole chunk out. Okay, I like that better. And then I want to get rid of the white here on all the paper edges. So I'm going to use my walnut stain. Let's take it off here. And I'm going to apply that to all of my paper edges, wherever it's white. And then I'm also going to edge the paper with the walnut stain. And then I want to spray a little bit of water where I added the walnut stain. And just let that do its thing a little bit. That run a little bit also on the edges. Bend all the pieces back in place. And then I'm going to dry this one more time. So this looks beautifully grungy now. I'm very happy with that. And since I'm thinking about clothes, I want to add some kind of fabric or something. And I found this piece of cheesecloth, which I guess I dyed with, I want to say coffee, but I'm not sure. I've had this dyed for a long time. I don't know. In any case, it's beige now. I'm trying to decide, should I put it more or less over the whole thing? Obviously, I will cut the holes out. Or should I just add like pieces around the holes? Okay, I'm going to add it, I think, to the whole thing. I know it looks very weird at the moment, but bear with me. Hopefully it will look better than it looks now. So let's add the holes. So I wanted to go around the holes somehow like this, putting it like underneath the paper folds. Okay, and I'm going to adhere this with matte gel. As always, you can use thinned down glue or any other adhesive that you feel comfortable with. Lifting those folds up so I can tuck the cheesecloth underneath. So I'm way out of my comfort zone here, which is great because I'm learning new things. Time to let this dry. It's dry-ish. We still see a little bit of the glue, but most of it has dried. This really looks like out of a dumpster, right? That's exactly the look I was going for. And now we see when we put this on, of course, these will have the dictionary pages underneath. But here on the sides, of course, we can see through to our base. So let's use that. And first of all, I'm going to add some walnut stain underneath those areas. I don't want them white. And second of all, let's add some cheesecloth underneath. And let's have that peeking out a bit like that. I like that. So let's cut 2 more pieces. Oh, this is so fun, so grungy. And 1 more for here. So I can adhere those. And then I can also go ahead and put these words underneath the holes. So I can leave that on the side and add my glue here around the holes. And then glue the paper into place. Once I have all of those pieces glued on, I can then glue on the whole thing. This is so fun. Now I want to go around the whole edge with my walnut stain. So now let's make some rust, shall we? So I have my little plastic palette here, which is simply a cutoff off of an old calendar. Then we need some acrylic paints, a black. You can also use a dark gray. A brown, in my case I have raw umber, but you can use any brown you have. And some sort of a orangey reddish type of color. I have one that's called mandarin. It really doesn't matter. And optionally, if you have, you can either use texture paste, or I'm just going to use sand to mix into my paints. If you have texture paste instead of sand, you could also use maybe baby powder, or what I've also seen people do is use cinnamon. That's also very interesting. If you use texture paste, I would add the texture paste now wherever you want to add the rust. Since I'm going to be mixing the sand directly into my color, I'm going to skip that step. So I'll start off with the brown and black. Then I'll add some sand. Then I'll take this kind of a stippling brush. I'll mix these. I think I have a little bit too much sand. Now it's really like a kind of a thick paste. And I'm going to add this to some of the areas. I think I need more because I wanted to have more grit. So I think I need more paint and more sand. Just more of everything. This almost seems like tar now. So I really want some of that structure on the bookmark. and then I'll do the brown. I'll try to wipe some of this off. I actually want some of the color to mix. I'll add a little more paint. So I'll dab some of that on here to give it a little bit of color variation. You might not see any difference on camera. I hardly see any here. Then I'll add some of the mandarin. Oops, that was way too much. I'm going to use another brush. Okay, so I have this one here. And I think I'll use this without the sand because the structure is there already. And I don't want a lot on here. And I do want it to also mix a little bit. If you look up photos for rust, there's so many different kinds, so I think there's no right or wrong how it has to look. And how about we also add some rust on the moth? Maybe just a little bit here on the edges of the wing. Maybe just on one side of her. I like it. And then let's add some of the orange. By the way, I printed her on 200 GSM. Yes. Let's let everything dry. I'm happy with the rust on the moth. I think that's fine that it's so dark. But here I think it's too dark. It's too much of a like in your eye contrast. So I want to see if I can manage to get it a little lighter by mixing some of this raw umber with the orange. I'm going over that again. I think it needs to go more around the tag as well to kind of frame it with this rust. And then let's add some more of the orange. Okay, it's dry now. I wish I would have just done the edges and just little touches around my holes instead of putting these huge blotches. But it is what it is now. And another thing I want to add to our moth, just for fun, is to make this here shiny by embossing it. To kind of show the difference even more between like this shiny new side and the grungy rusty side. I'm going to use my fossilized amber embossing glaze and my embossing pen. I'll use the pen on all of the wing. I also want to add some black thread underneath. And I think I'm going to turn her like this. It needs more thread. Yes. Okay, so I'll glue that down. Looks like I need to clamp her down a little bit. As a final touch, I want to add some turquoise splatters. This is, I think it's thinned down acrylic paint. Not 100% sure. It's whatever I made in the video where I was making the bubble papers. It's still the same container. So it has dishwashing liquid in it, but it doesn't matter. So this is my finished bookmark. Definitely a strange one for me, but I love how different it is. I love that I ventured out to try new things again and gained new experiences as an artist. Let's add it to our journal. Not that it really matters where we put it. I'll just put it right on this page because that's so empty. Oh no! We forgot the back side. No! Don't you love that? You put all this effort into your project and then you turn it around and it's like this. No! So I'm going to make my life easy and just add one of my digital backgrounds. I don't have the patience to put more effort into the backside now. And I'll just ink around it and I'll be done with that. So let's try this again. So now we have a pretty backside and this can go in here. Oh my goodness, it's so grungy. Way too much rust. I guess that's what happens when you get so excited about making rust. So number 17, rust and bookmark. Check. Have fun with this and see you back here tomorrow. Love you guys. Mwah, mwah.